Hello again. This is my next video in the Apologetica series, in which I attempt to explain why creationism matters. Right, to recap a little bit, I've already explained that I think Genesis is best seen as a myth. It's a mythological account from a Bronze Age society, as the scientists say, as the anthropologists say, and it's not a scientific account. It's very true in a spiritual sense, but not in a scientific sense at all. So, what to make of creationism? The intelligent design movement. These are modern phenomena that have really only come about since Darwin's theory of evolution. Before that, everybody was more or less in agreement that Genesis was an account that couldn't be taken totally literally, but it was the Word of God. Now we've got two separate, divergent mainstream paths, one of which is in Christianity, one of which is that the liberal interpretation, which I stick to, which is that it's a myth, and the other one is that it's to be taken literally as the inerrant Word of God. Right, first point is to say very clearly that it's lies from beginning to end. It really has no scientific validity at all, but in America they've put a whole lot of money and a whole lot of effort into giving it apparent scientific credibility, and it's poisonous lies. That's the first point. Second point is that it's not at all scientific. It's pseudoscience at best. Some of the things that creationists and ID proponents come up with are genuine problems for scientists to explain, but explain them they do or can or will. Some of them are utter rubbish, and some of it is misunderstandings of philosophical points, or maybe even genuine philosophical points, but certainly nothing scientific has ever come out of creationism that has troubled mainstream evolution in the slightest. Third point is that it's God of the gaps. It's always God of the gaps. Even the cleverest proponent of ID, when you analyse it deep enough, you will find that it's just God of the gaps. All they're saying is, we can't explain this scientifically, therefore it must be God. And as I've already said, that's really not good enough. That's not what God's about. Science is part of God's creation. God is bigger than science. So it's very much a God of the gaps theology, and should be dismissed as such. So why do people get convinced about creationism? It's nonsense. It's obviously nonsense. There are, as you can see, charts that demonstrate its complete nonsensicalness. Why do people get convinced of it? Right, I think there are a couple of very potent reasons, very potent drivers to make people reject evolution in an emotional sense, and then they look for anything else that they can that will do instead, and they find these creationists shouting from the sidelines. So let me point out what these things are that would make people have a reaction against evolutionism. First thing is that science and evolution, biology, very clearly states that humans are animals. And humans don't want to be seen as animals. We want to be seen as better than animals, separate from animals, different from animals. But scientifically speaking, we are animals. We breed like animals. We breathe like animals. We live like animals. We give birth like animals. We suckle our young like animals. We raise our young like animals do. We are specifically mammals. We lactate. And we give birth to live young. Even more specifically, we're great apes. We have opposable thumbs, large brains, upright stance. We're great apes. Even more specifically, we are a type of hominid. There's been many types of hominid over the years. We can clearly see them in the fossil record. Homo sapiens sapiens is just the latest and the only existing form of hominid. So why this extreme reaction against being seen as animals? Well, in my opinion, it can be scientifically explained as being evolutionarily adaptive to prevent us having sex with animals. It's we don't want to see other animals as being sexual objects. So we have this immediate gut reaction that animals are animals, they're separate from us, humans are humans. As an aside, there's the question of whether having sex with animals is morally wrong. I mean, it's obviously a bit weird, but is it morally wrong if it doesn't hurt the animal, if it doesn't hurt the human? The modern stance, popular conception in society is that as long as nobody's hurt, it's okay. As a Christian, I've got to say that I don't agree with that, really. I think if you want to have sex with animals, there is something wrong with you and you should be going to see a doctor. I'm not going to condemn you. I'm not going to condemn anyone who wants to have sex with anything. But I would say it's a sign of spiritual growth that has gone wrong. But that is not a good enough reason to embrace creationism. It's not a good enough reason to reject the truth, which is that we are animals. The second source of visceral antipathy to evolution is slightly more important in my eyes. It's that we would like to reject, as a gut reaction, we would like to reject the whole idea of survival of the fittest, which is how evolution works. It's how Darwin says and how it has been mostly supported in the years since the process of evolution happens. Those people who are fit for their environment, or those animals that are fit for their environment, those living beings that are fit for their environment, they survive to reproduce, and thus their genes are passed on, and that's how evolution works. We have a visceral reaction against survival of the fittest. We don't want survival of the fittest to be true. We don't want people who are incapable of looking after themselves to die. We don't want this to be true. And that is a good thing, it's a good reaction. But it's moral, it's not scientific. Scientifically, survival of the fittest is without a moral dimension. It's like electromagnetism. It's just a scientific fact. When it is applied to humans, it does develop a moral dimension. The Romans practiced survival of the fittest. Romulus and Remus were a prime example of it. So, to summarise, creationism at root a knee-jerk reaction to science's harsh reality take on life, but it shouldn't be mistaken for a scientific argument. It's a religious argument. Like Genesis itself, it's a myth-based argument. It's about morality. And in that sense, it should be taken seriously, but it should be seen for what it is, not for what it's dressed up to be.